Hi, let's make a classic bouncing ball sing-along style video, like this.
Ice and flames call my name. I freeze, I burn, I blame. I love, I hate the same.
Cool, let's get started. I am here in DaVinci Resolve on the edit page, and I've already created a timeline. This is a standard full HD timeline at 30 frames a second. And I have this song, Ice and Flames, from the Stream Beats Originals first album, Demon. Very cool. I use Stream Beats for all of my videos, by the way, if you didn't know that. Back to this. Ice and Flames, I'm gonna pull this right onto my timeline. And it has this little intro here, and I'm gonna cut a little bit into this first instrumental so we can focus just on this intro.
Ice and flames call my name.
So this is what we're gonna be using, and we are gonna focus just on that main text. Once this effect is done, you can toss it over anything. If you had a full music video, you could just layer this on top of that. If you wanted to create a custom animated video, you could do that as well. If you just wanted text on screen, you can just do this. Now, to achieve this effect, we are going to use the Fusion page. The Fusion page is awesome. We talk about it a lot on this channel, but it can be intimidating when you first jump in. I have several videos for people getting started in the Fusion page. If you're brand new, I recommend you check those out too, but hopefully you should still be able to follow along with this video, even if you haven't. Now, to get this audio in Fusion is a little interesting. You can hear track audio inside Fusion when it is tied to the video layer, if that makes sense. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna grab an empty adjustment clip, drag that onto our timeline, and then stretch it out over the course of this video. And I'm gonna select both the adjustment clip and our song. I'm gonna right click and go to New Compound Clip. I'll click Create, and now it just recognizes that blank video layer and the audio layer as one source clip, so that when we open the Fusion page, if I go to the beginning of our timeline and start playing,
Ice and flames.
we have some audio. Now we're gonna do a few things to try to keep the load for this as light as possible, especially because sometimes working with audio in the Fusion page can get a little finicky if it's trying to buffer and it can't play full time. So one thing we're gonna do is right click right underneath this timeline, uncheck high quality, uncheck motion blur, even though we don't have any right now, and then check proxy, and then later we're actually gonna switch this up a little bit even more so we get even more focused, better playback. If you do run into any issues where the audio feels like it gets choppy and stays choppy, even replaying it, that's probably an issue with the audio cache. I ran into it a little bit earlier, and you can solve it by selecting your media in Node, coming over into the inspector, jumping over to audio, and clicking this Purge Audio Cache. If you're repeatedly running into issues, this is also something to try. And now we are going to add our main text layer. And to do that, I'm gonna click this little button up here to add a text plus node. And another little secret to help with processing, right away I'm coming into this text plus node over to image, and I'm gonna change this depth from default to just int 8. Fusion naturally processes video you bring in and even text layers at a very high quality, which you don't need for something like plain white text. So bringing that down might help us a little bit as well. We are always managing our resources, which I always have to do on my system as well. It is not cutting edge by any definition. Cool, so we have this text layer, and we are going to rope it into this little node tree down here by holding the output of this text plus node, this little gray box, and connecting it to the gray square coming out of our media in, and that will automatically make a merge node here. So you can tell that we are previewing our media out because of these two little white dots underneath. The second one is lit up, so that means it is on our viewer 2. If you click 1, it'll bring it up in viewer 1, and 1 and 2 just toggles that. So what I am actually going to do is I'm gonna come to that text 1 and pull that up on the second viewer, and here you'll see you have that checkerboard pattern because this is actually on a transparent background. We haven't typed any text yet, so let's do that, text, and I'm going to pull in just the first line of this song, Ice and Flames. And I'm going to grab these little transform controls and just pull this to the bottom of our screen like you would see in one of these videos. So now I am going to go to the beginning of our timeline, set a keyframe on this text field, and I'm just gonna listen through and input these first few lines of text. And I'm just copying these lyrics from this other window I have over here.
Ice and flames, call
And you'll notice when you change that text, it automatically sets a keyframe there as well.
Call my name.
Just making sure I get it kind of close. And now if we scrub through, you'll see that this follows along with the song.
Ice and flames, call my name. I freeze, I burn, I blame. I love, I hate the same.
Now, when I was setting these keyframes, I did double check because it's not uncommon for audio to shift a little bit when you're playing whole chunks. So if I go back and just check out those transitions,
Call my name.
they feel good. Now, the effect we are going to make is we're gonna have this bouncing ball land on each letter, and as it lands, it changes the color of that letter. And we're actually going to animate that bouncing ball first. And we're gonna do this using a method that I actually discovered on stream a little while ago. I made a stream highlight about that, but it was a little rough and I didn't super explain it like I would in a traditional tutorial, so we're doing that now. And this is going to end up being very quick. And as a bonus, you're just gonna draw the bouncing ball path with your mouse as it plays, so you won't get a super like sterile or clean or any motion that it doesn't feel organic. This will follow your exact motion. We will be doing this with the mouse. If you had something like a Wacom pen or any tablet like that, I think you could get some really interesting results. So let me get to that and I'll show you this really cool feature. But first we have to create this little bouncing ball we want. So I'm gonna create a background node by clicking this and pipe in an ellipse mask for that. And then you'll see this outline of the mask here. We're not previewing that right now. If we preview the background, you'll see this ball here. I'm going to make this probably this like little teal color maybe. And this ellipse, I'm going to jump over to that and pull down the width and the height. This is going to be pretty small. So I'll just pull that down and then copy that into height as well. And now we have this little ball. And then coming out of that background, I'm going to create a transform node. I pulled up this search bar by pressing shift space and then just typing in transform will get you that. And if you have a node selected, when you add another node, it automatically pipes into that one. And then we're gonna take this transform out like we did before, pull into the output of this merge, it merges in. Now if we preview that media out, you'll see we have that media in, which is this black background, we have the text and this bouncing ball. Now I'm gonna do something to, like before, maybe help with processing. This media in, it is just blank, but it's still carrying information with it. So what we're actually going to do is disconnect this and create a new background node, pull down that alpha so it's completely transparent. I'll change this to int 8 as well. Again, we're doing everything to manage processing because it will be important that this plays back smoothly. And then I'm gonna pipe that in as well, so that, again, we just have this on a transparent now, but when we play, we will still have audio from that media in. So now, the magic. I'm gonna select this transform node. I'm going to zoom out a little bit on this canvas by holding middle mouse button and left mouse button and just pulling back. And then I'm gonna take this transform, move this bouncing ball right off screen. And I'm going to set one keyframe in the inspector on that transform right on center. Now, one subtle thing that just changed in our viewer is that we now have this toolbar up here. And these are all controls for this motion path that we are creating with keyframes. And the one that will be very important to us is this second one, Draw Append. I'm going to explain what this does very quickly. And you'll see once I get started exactly what it does. But this allows you to record any movement as you play. I'm gonna click this button. I'll click that now, so now we're in that mode. And I'm gonna click and hold on the center of this ball that we want to bounce across the screen. And when I press spacebar, it is going to start recording any movement I make. So I'm gonna play this, listen along to the song, and bring in the ball to bounce on the letters. It might have some jank we'll have to iron out, but overall, this will be so fast for what we want to do. And as I go through this, I'm going to pause in between each line, just so I don't have to whip the ball back to try to start. We're gonna do it one line at a time and try to nail this timing. I picked this song because I think it is a pretty good example for this. The lines have some time to breathe, so I think we'll be able to do an okay job of nailing timing. Let's see. So Draw Append is on. and I am going to make sure I'm at the beginning of my timeline. I'm going to click and hold, and then when I press spacebar, I will have full control over writing all these new keyframes. And I'm going to just drag this to bounce in and out on ice and flames and then off screen again.
Ice and flames.
Now I paused, and even if we just play that back,
Ice and flames.
like it's there, we did it. We have some interesting stuff early on, but right now I'm gonna keep going, and I'm just gonna go to whatever our last keyframe was, go forward 1 frame, and then zoom out a little bit so I can see. And I'm actually gonna jump back to this first option, click to append. And because we moved ahead 1 frame, if I just click over here, the ball will instantly snap over there. And you're not gonna see this on screen. It's gonna be off screen on 1 frame, and the next frame is gonna be off screen on the other side of the screen. So it's pretty much teleporting. And then I'm gonna go back to Draw Append, and the text hasn't even changed yet, and it might be interesting. We might need to adjust the timing of the text a little bit, but we'll see. I actually am going to just scrub ahead a little bit in here. The words are almost in the exact same place. This will be great. So I'm gonna go back to that keyframe. I'm on Draw Append, and I'm gonna do the exact same process.
Call my name.
Back to Click Append, back to that last frame. 1 frame forward, I did that move just with the arrow key, snap back, and then I'm gonna double check where about these words are so it snaps in correctly. Back to Draw Append.
I freeze, I burn, I blame.
One more time. I think I might have been off a little bit on that first one, but we're going to adjust these after the fact. I haven't run through that process before, so we'll see how it goes. But for now, I am going to do that same process 1 last time. Click append to snap back, draw append, and just listen to this last line as I bounce. We'll double check where these are, about the same position as well.
I love, I hate the same.
Cool. You'll notice I stalled a bit on that as well, but cleaning up will be part of this process, especially with how quick this is. So we're gonna run through all of that. But first, one thing we are going to do, I'm gonna click to this 3rd option, insert and modify, zoom out, and I'm just going to draw a box over all of these. And then I'm gonna come to this last option on this bar up here, reduce points. I'm gonna click that, and you'll see instantly what this is doing is it is trying to simplify the path. So if I crank down this precision, you'll see some of these dots start disappearing. And right now this path is linear, it's straight between all of these dots, but we're gonna change that. So just to help again with a little bit of processing, we're gonna bring this down a little bit. It will retain the timing of these, which is great, but we'll see that this is almost at half. I'm gonna click OK. And then I'm going to select these again, zoom in so you can really see what we're doing now. I'm gonna come up and just click this little curvy line here, smooth. And you'll see that smooths out all that motion as well. So real quick, let's just watch what we have.
Ice and flames, call my name. I freeze, I burn, I blame. I love, I hate the same. I love, I hate the same.
Okay, a few areas we have to look at, but on the whole, that was very quick for what we just did. If you wanted to manually keyframe this, it would take longer and it wouldn't look as good. Now we are going to clean up this path, but we're gonna start by going a little bit further down the process to get our changing color text. And we're gonna do this in an interesting way. I'm going to copy this text plus node, and then I'm going to press Control-Shift-Z to create an instanced node. If I zoom in, you'll see there is a green line connecting these two, and wherever I go, it is dragged. And if I click the second one, you'll see that all these parameters in the inspector have this green outline. Instanced nodes are very powerful. They're like an exact copy of the node, and if you change one parameter on one, it changes it on the other. But you can choose to selectively de-instance things so that they can be similar in some ways, but different in others. So right now, both of these follow this same transition of the words changing, but we're gonna go into this instanced text node, come over to shading really quick, make sure we're on element 1, and I'm going to right click on any of these color parameters and go to de-instance color group. Then if I select this color and go over this ball, I can select that, and then if we just preview that text layer, you'll see that now we just have blue text. But we are going to grab the output and connect it to this merge to create another merge. And now if we preview this media out, it just looks like all our text is blue. But we want this text to turn blue in time. So back on this instance text, back on the main text panel, we're going to check this right on effect. And again, this is something you'll want to right click and de-instance right on group, because we want the white text to be there the entire time, and then as the ball lands, it turns to blue. Now what we're gonna do next, I think is pretty cool. We're gonna go back to the beginning of the timeline again. I'm going to drag this end all the way so that it's only white, click a keyframe, and then we're just gonna scrub through until the ball looks like it lands right on that word. Great. And if you want to view this in a different way, you can always select this transform as well and scrub to where the path is closest to the word. Either way works. But on the instance node, I'm going to set a keyframe there and just scrub this end forward until that entire first word is blue. Then I will scroll forward until it lands on and, cover and we are, and then flames. Great. And now to make sure our timing is correct, we're going to come up to our main text field up here, go forward to where it changes to call my name. And the first thing we're gonna do is go back one frame and set another keyframe on this right on effect. And then when we go forward a frame to where the text has changed, we just need to take this right on and clear it back to 0. And we're going to repeat this process through all of these text fields. So it lands on call my name. Great. Next, back one keyframe, forward one keyframe, 0 that out. The eye's a little off, but we will fix that. I freeze. Again, our last bit of words. Back keyframe. Oh. Back keyframe forward. 0 that out. And it looks like the timing on this last iFreeze is a little bit off. So because we're using that for reference, I'm gonna open my spline viewer, just select my styled text here on this instance node, and just pull this keyframe back so it is on screen by the time we need it. Great. Again, keyframe forward, keyframe back, keyframe forward, clear it out, and one last time. One last time, here we go. Zeroing out for the last one after we adjusted some timing. I love. I hate. And then finally, same. Great. Now, to view this down here in the spline viewer next, what we're gonna do, we're gonna uncheck style checks now that we fixed that. Click twice to clear it away, and then we're just gonna select end. So you see here what is happening. It is going forward, it's covering the word, it's snapping back when it changes to the next line and then back. But this doesn't look good. Watch, if I preview this.
Eyes in flames, call my name.
it's not working the way we want it to. It's not going word by word. As soon as one word is complete, it is starting to slowly spell out the next word. But there is an amazing tool for that. I'm gonna select all of these keyframes, and in this little bar down here, I am coming to this first right angle guy called Step In, and I'm gonna click that. And if you zoom into this graph, you'll see now we have all these right angles, and look at what this is doing. We have our first keyframe, and it is holding, in After Effects these are called hold keyframes, it is holding that until it gets to the next keyframe, and then it is jumping to that value. So now if we play,
I send flames, call my name, I freeze, I burn, I blame, I love, I hate the same.
awesome. And if you need to adjust any timing, you can zoom in and just grab those. You can zoom in, remember to select the specific one you want, bounce it off, you got it. This is awesome. This has been super quick for this kind of thing. And now we're just gonna look at some simple methods for cleaning up that bouncing ball. You could always re-record until you nail it perfectly, but you have plenty of options. If you click on the transform, you see that in this viewer, but if you come down to the spline viewer, click on the transform node. By the way, one setting I have on is with these 3 dots in the spline viewer, I have show only selected tool. It can be useful. If I turn this off, I see everything that we have animated, but if you go to only selected tool, then you just click the node you want to focus on. I find that helps me. And here, if we check displacement, you'll see this is all of these keyframes we set. And we'll probably use this down here to select keyframes. Selecting it in one place will select it in the other. So if I start watching through, that one's pretty good. This call is a little late. So I'm gonna go in, select these keyframes here, and just drag, I'm gonna hold shift, and I'm just gonna drag them back in time. I'm gonna find the point where that call actually lands. Let's try there. I'm gonna select all the points before that and drag those backwards in time so that they land a little bit earlier. And I'm gonna grab some of these later ones here to try to smooth this out. And I'll even click a little.
Call my name, call my names, call my names.
And again, we're running into timing issues on this text changing. So I'm gonna come back into that instance text, change this styled text. We want this to happen way back here. Now this will change this blue color as well, but that is okay. We'll set new keyframes there and then make sure we have cleared out those. Cool. So now it looks like I dragged it a little too far. Again, this will be a balancing act. This is the precise timing, but this is still way faster than it would be manually. Awesome. I know we got a little bit in the weeds, but we've cleaned this up a significant amount. And now one final thing we're going to add is coming to transform in the inspector under settings. We're gonna check this motion blur. I'm gonna change this to a quality of 4 real quick. And then we're gonna go back to the edit page and let this cache and see what we have. All right, our timeline is cached. Let's play it back and see what we've got.
I send flames, call my name, I freeze, I burn.
This looks great. Are you noticing that one thing? So on those 2 frames where we whip, I said teleport the ball from one side to the other, that got caught in our motion blur. It comes off. there are those frames where the motion blur is overlapping. To do that, we're gonna jump back in and use those hold frames we saw earlier on these big gaps. I'm gonna select the 2 frames where this jump happens and click hold. That's what we want. I'm gonna go do that real quick on all the other jumps, which you can see given their nice little jumps here. And hold keyframes will get rid of that funkiness. Because even though it is 1 frame to the next, it is still calculating between all of them. Awesome. We'll cache 1 more time.
Eyes in flames, call my name. I freeze, I burn, I blame. I love, I hate the same.
And I think that is really cool. We got this really organic motion. We have this dynamic bouncing ball. The text changes as well in time to the song. And we have full control to go in and change those individual keyframes on the bouncing ball anytime we want. You could just use the color changing text if you want, but I think the bouncing ball, especially if you want that more playful attitude, it really works. And this is by far the easiest way I've seen to do it. And like I said, I discovered this method of animating on stream and even worked up the foundation of this tutorial on stream. So if you're curious about DaVinci Resolve or you have questions, make sure you're subscribed and notifications are on for when I go live. It's always an open DaVinci Resolve Q&A no matter what I'm working on in the background. I really enjoy those. Check it out. And of course, anything else on my channel. If you like Resolve or Fusion, there's cool stuff there. Thanks. I'll see you next time.